So I would like to start by thanking you, Marco, and the team and the partners. It's super exciting, actually, even from the start. I moved to US 20 years ago to move to innovation, and it's incredible that kind of echoing what Marco said, and then Julie, and afterwards Larry. I think we became a global town of innovation, creating innovation and creating a better world. And I think today, when we look at the names we have on this panel, it's a proof. When we look at the best music services in US being used, if there are 4, if it's Spotify, if it's SoundCloud, or if it's Pandora and Shazam, 3 out of 4 is coming from Europe. If you look at the biggest sector being disrupted today, finance, and if you look at Klarna, we'll discuss today where the innovation is coming from, Zopa, again, it's coming from Europe. So we are globally united to create this innovation and a better place. And I think, again, like Marco mentioned, unicorn, we have this stamp being a unicorn. And I will just simplify stuff. What is it to be a unicorn? And I think being a unicorn is you have to start and you have to find a company, and you have to have a product that satisfies a large enough demand. And here's an example. So we have great ingredients here, and then you can't stop. You have to grow and grow and grow and grow, and all of a sudden you have investors or buyers that pay to buy a piece of the company or the whole company, $1 billion, and then here we call you a unicorn. So I'm super excited to be part of this today, and I would like to start by, and we just mentioned that we live in a town, so I will go to the apartment we call UK, start with Giles. So
Does that work? Yep.
Oh, super, it works. So as many of you may know, it's a kind of one of the darlings of this big market. It's a peer-to-peer funding platform. I believe you just passed $1 billion, kind of.
£1 billion.
Billion pounds.
We're British.
Exactly, much bigger number. So, and how many lenders using?
We've got about 230,000 customers in total, and we lent about £1.1 billion, so call that $1.75 billion.
So the numbers are incredible, and then we'll learn from you. And again, I'm expecting, last time we had this conversation, it was our CEO summit, and you had a big announcement, Uber partnership. So I'm expecting something even bigger today. And then moving to, where should we move? Maybe Stockholm. This next apartment, Stockholm, we have Klarna, a company that we worked with and advised, and we talk about minimizing friction, and you imagine a payment service where you use a phone number or an email when you buy something, nothing else. And there was a big announcement, Tom. Tom is kind of, as you guys see here, it's leading the launch in US as part of the launch team. It was just announced, raised $90 million at $2.5 billion, so unicorn, not even billion. So it's super exciting to hear what you have, what you would bring to to US. My advisor, I'm from Turkey, and my advisor is my 15-year-old nephew from Istanbul. So every morning I ask him, what should be the next mobile app I should advise? So, and then let's move to Berlin. Obviously, we have Zalando, and Zalando is making customers happy in 15 countries. It's shoes, it's fashion products, lifestyle products. We were outside chatting, and there was Julia from Munich, and then I asked her if she used Zalando. She said she loves Zalando, and before coming to US, she purchased her high heel shoes. So again, it's so global. So great to have you here. And then going to SoundCloud, and I don't know if it's the Stockholm home or Berlin home, because I think they found it in Stockholm and moved to Berlin in 2008. It's a good vintage, right? 2008 is also Klarna. And Zalando, woof.
2005.
2005, okay, 2008. So SoundCloud, again, another US kind of a team. We'll hear from you. So what we try to do here is SoundCloud is 200 million users, one of the most popular music platform and a network. And we'll hear from you, have a bunch of good questions. So just starting this, I would like to have founders' questions, which we lost one, blah, 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 car. And then growth is growth executives. So starting with you, Giles. You did it. You started a company, right? So would like to understand from you, how did it all start, right? You have this platform, you have this solution today, super exciting. And where did that idea came? What was the motivation? And how different the product today, 10 years after, kind of starting the product, just give us this whole kind of start and where it is today, and how different it is today from the first day.
So it was I thought it was inspiring listening to Julie earlier. I will actually have one issue to dispute with her as to who was first. So I think we launched our businesses in about the same week without knowing about each other. But our business was founded to make consumer loans. So we weren't trying to lend money to entrepreneurs all around the world. We were trying to lend money to consumers in the UK. And it was interesting what Julie was talking about mission-focused company. So we had a really simple mission. We wanted to change the world of financial services. And we wanted to use the marketplace model to create fairer financial services. And by fairer, we predominantly meant better value and more efficient, but also fairer in terms of treating customers as customers, because we believe quite strongly, and even bear in mind this was before the credit crisis, we believe that even then the major financial institutions of the world had forgotten who their customers were, had become obsessed with making profits for their own shareholders, and in many cases not even the shareholders but for the employees, with the customers ranking a very distant third place. So in that sense, the company hasn't changed at all. So the business model hasn't changed. We still do exactly the same thing. We use a marketplace to connect lenders and borrowers directly, more efficiently and more fairly, and offer them better value. Some of the execution has changed a little bit. So we founded the business using exclusively retail consumers to fund the loans. We now use a mixture, about half and half, of retail consumers and institutional lenders. We've been copied over in the US here, notably by Prosper and Lending Club in California, and they use almost exclusively institutional funds. So we copied something from them in accommodating both. And we've also had to cope with the imposition of regulation in our sector, something we actually ironically campaigned for. And that's meant that some subtle changes in execution have happened. But predominantly, the mission has remained exactly the same, and so has the business model.
Thank you. So moving from your camp to growth, obviously growth is a big part of what we do, and we would like to have some takeaways as kind of, like we mentioned before, yesterday is gone, and you have to be really fast. So just can you tell us how you guys continue to grow, and what are some of the tools that you use as a team, and even examples as an individual to move faster? And again, give us an example of stuff that, whether it's Slack and some of the tools, just we would like to understand from you so we can go back and try to use those. How do you grow, and what do you use?
I think when it comes to growing, there are like three different areas where you actually grow as a company. One, of course, is growing the business, like growing in revenue, growing in customers, growing in mobile downloads. Second one is growing the team, like really scaling on getting people into the company. And the third one, which is also really important from our point of perspective, is really growing the technology platform, because we're tech companies here, and I think this is like one of the most crucial parts to grow the tech team. And all those three parts go together. Maybe from going back in time 2-3 years, when Zalando was growing 100% in revenue per month and 100% in people working in the company per month, the really crucial third pillar was growing the technology platform as fast to handle, on one hand, the scaling in terms of the business model. If you like grow in revenue 100%, then also your visitors grow 100%. So like keeping the platform alive is like really, really crucial. And like investing from the beginning on into a really strong tech team is like especially for customers that come from a retail background like us, where like it's not most obvious that the tech team is the most crucial one to scale. It's really important to not let this like leave the tech team small at the beginning and then grow it later on, but really start from the beginning on, having a strong tech team building the platform. And then you can also scale in terms of the others, in terms of the other parts, like scaling the business and scaling the overall team, because they also have to work with the platform you provide them.
But again, I want specific examples. As you do all this good stuff, give us examples. What do you use? What apps do you use so that you can be efficient and effective? Just Slack, the new stuff. Do you use new stuff?
We use new stuff. I think what we used through all our part was Atlassian Jira, which helped us in a lot of different parts of the company. The funny thing is, like, we started in the tech team using that as usual issue tracker, which you use in tech teams. But then the other parts of the company realized, hey, they have a quite cool tool where they manage all the issues with. So why don't we use it in other parts? So there were like times where like even the supply chain management used Jira as their tool to track all their supply parts, because it was actually very usable and it was fast and it was cloud-based. So we really had a good way to scale the company with some tools. So this is one example. But we use like Google Mail. I think this is like really, really good to stick with the Google Apps platform. It's collaborative. Use Skype at the beginning. I think these are like the standard tools every like tech entrepreneur uses, and we started with them as well, and this helped us being like fast in terms of scaling there.
Okay, thank you. So we embrace that. So I will tweak that question. How do you not over-innovate? I think another issue is once you have 200 million users, we kind of had that conversation. You know, you look at Skype and Evernote, and you grow so much, and not that much has changed. And again, you know, Klarna, Stripe. How do you make it so that you don't change too much, and how do you make it so that you continue to innovate? And maybe I start with you, Manolo.
Okay, it's on. Good. So let me explain first of all what I do. So I lead the San Francisco office, and I manage all the large partnerships for Facebook, Twitter, Google integrations. The team is based in Berlin. We've got an office in New York, and I run the San Francisco office. But one of the key things when we were starting here, and I joined 4 years ago to open the San Francisco office, was to move the relationships that we had from Europe to San Francisco, and to take advantage of these other platforms, namely Facebook and Twitter, that were growing quickly. And how do we nurture that relationship on the ground here so that we have basically the best of class integration? Because what our mission is, and I loved how Julie said the difference between a mission and a mercenary, it aligns very well with how I look at, you're trying to build a company versus building a startup, yep. Right? And if you're looking at having that mission for us, which is to reduce the gap between a musician sharing something and someone else listening to it, regardless of where they're at, then you want to make sure that you're on those platforms that are growing very, very quickly. So getting to your question, what we did 4 years ago was to start with those relationships and then innovate with them as they grew, right? So if you look at, we launched a very unique integration with Twitter last November. It took us about a year working with them, but that was a 3-year relationship, starting with version 1, version 2, and then kind of getting to the version 3 that you saw in October. And that's a lot of doing the things that you probably do as a small startup, is taking advantage of metrics, measuring it, making sure that there's a benefit there that's going to accrue along the lines of the mission in the time frame that you need it, and also understanding, and I love it how Larry said the notion of trust. Because if you're building a partnership, and you can have all these amazing metrics, but you need to have that trust that you're both working on that same mission. And for us, you know, with Twitter and Facebook, both interested in taking advantage of music engagement, that really aligned with what we wanted to do, right? And so, you know, from our perspective, how do we innovate even more? We have a lot of programs. One of those is an API program that I manage as well that helps lubricate that. But it is a constant challenge. I mean, I often say that the same challenges that I face every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning when I check my inbox and I'm sure you're doing this as well, there's this panic moment when you wake up, because you know you've only got 2 or 3 hours before your Berlin team kind of starts worrying about other things. And you have to really take advantage of those things that are the most important. That's your focus. But where is that time to kind of really be able to say, what about this? Which is where the innovation hopefully kicks in, right? And you've got a limited amount of time to do it. How do you take it and incorporate it into your daily routines? That's the challenge.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I agree with Manolo. I think that really it's being mission driven, knowing what your focus is, making sure that everyone is on kind of the same page all the time is challenging, especially as the organization grows, especially as you end up in lots of geographies. Our organization is about 1,500 people now, and our European operations are very different than our U.S. operations, but we still have the same mission. So it's keeping that mission in mind. I think it's very important also, as you said, to pick the right partners. I think that goes with startups, but I think that goes with growth companies as well. So we've just launched in the U.S. market, and a lot of it for us is almost going slow to go fast. So we were very strategic about what types of partners we launched with. Overstock is kind of one of the bigger names that we've launched with here in the U.S. And picking them was very strategic in a lot of different ways, but it's finding people that really believe in your mission, really believe in what you're doing, because not everybody will, especially in the beginning or especially as you're growing into new markets or new segments. So finding the true believers, taking what they say with a grain of salt to a certain extent, because you can't build everything for everyone, but finding those true believers and then growing with them over time. And I think that's where the slow part comes in. Obviously, you want to be innovative. You want to respond to what your customers need. You don't want to lose those customers. But I think if the relationship is strong and you believe in one another and you know that the trust is there, then I think you're gearing yourself up for success.
Just a question to you. So in US, are we going to be able to buy an item without a credit card, wallet, username, passcode, like it is in Europe? Just phone number?
You can already.
Wow, it's exciting. Giles, would like you to share, if you don't mind, when you have this journey from founding the firm, kind of a few takeaways, right? What you have learned looking back that you can share with us, just 2 or 3 takeaways, key learnings.
Well, the first one's a kind of obvious one, I suppose, given we founded the business in 2004, so 11 years ago. And that's that overnight sensations are outliers. And because they're outliers, we can't learn that much from them. We can learn much more from businesses that take an awfully long time to build any sort of scale. We heard from Larry, it takes 10 years on average to get to an IPO. And that requires an enormous amount of perseverance, both from the founding team, but also from the rest of the team as they come to join. So I think just remember that overnight successes are unusual, and persevere and hang in there. That's the first thing. The second thing is talent, and how the needs for talent evolve over time. So founder teams, by definition, tend to be quite generalist, tend to believe very strongly in the mission. They're very useful for creating the mission and creating the culture of the business. But ultimately, as the business begins to scale, you need specific talent that focuses on increasingly narrow parts of the business and the operations. So you need to hire, and you need to hire differently. So your selection criteria need to evolve. And the management of that talent needs to change, because as you employ people who are working in increasingly specialized silos, the last thing you want to do is create a corporation when you're still a small business. So you need to create a management structure that remains true to the nimbleness and agility of a small company, but still allows more direct management of people who have a more focused role. And you won't get that right. So the first iterations of that will go wrong, and you'll probably lose some of your most senior hires, maybe even some of the founders. And increasingly, as you build your probably second or third organization, the thing begins to settle down.
That's extremely valuable. So I think, again, motivation is important, focus and motivation we had discussed before. Would like to ask you, how long have you been with Zalando?
Now 5.5 years.
So how do you define, again, going back to growth, how do you define success for you? Past is past, 18 months to come. how do you define another 2 years, hopefully, going to 7 years? How do you define success for you, and how do you define success for Zalando going kind of another 18 months?
I think Zalando is now at a point where we like reinvent a lot of parts that we did in the last years. So we're moving towards becoming a platform company, and to open up to a lot more customers on one hand, to like have a lot broader customer-facing products towards all kind of fashion users, so everyone here most probably. And on the other hand, also to open up to a lot more partners and to work very closely with the fashion brands. We're already started this, so we work very closely with Nike, but also to open up and help brands really become successful in e-commerce, become successful online, because this is nothing which fashion brands have in their DNA like we have as a tech online company. So this is like our journey for the next months or years to come, to really make this step from a wholesale retailer, we are now online, but really driving the company to become this platform company, and really getting a lot more connections between different people and different kinds of fashion in terms of providing the items and the fashion parts to the customers. I think one example is if you like see a James Bond movie and see the suit he wears, and actually you want to wear this tonight, and then that you get exactly this suit in 30 minutes delivered. This is like one of the use cases we want to fulfill, and this is not possible only using what we have in our warehouses, but this is only possible with using the right partners, teaming up with companies, and really getting every customer, every fashion item he or she wants as fast as possible in the timing that she wants.
Yes, so it's like retail instant gratification. So Marco is looking at me. We had to be innovative to have all this in such short time frame. So thank you so much, and I will go to the next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.